Welcome everybody to another episode of the Nerd Continuity, where we talk about design, development, and all other crazy sorts of stuff that we find online. I'm your host, Alex, as usual, and also this week we have a lot of interesting news about design, development, technology, and all the other good stuff. Let's jump straight into it with an article from Straight, the online magazine called straight.com, and it's an article really interesting because it's about a web developer called Billiam Liu that is from Victoria, that now lives in Vancouver, that he found a job as a web developer without having any degree about computer science. So this is something that you guys ask me a lot. And the most common question that I receive on my YouTube channel or underneath my videos is, do I need to go to school to be a web developer? Do I need a degree, a diploma or something like official to start doing my developer career, or to work in the IT or to work as inside the field of computer science? The answer normally, like generically or until a bunch of years ago, was yes, you need to. Yes, you do. Yes, you have to have a degree, a diploma, something official. Today is not like that anymore. Today, you can totally work in the industry without having a degree, an official degree on the same study, on the same field of study of what you do. And this is just one of the many examples that you can find around. So the story is about this Vancouver resident, Billiam Liu, that doesn't fit the public stereotypes of a web developer because he doesn't actually have a degree in computer science and never did any computer programming while growing on Vancouver Island. He has a degree in commerce at a University of Victoria, so completely disconnected from anything web related or design related. He took a class at the Lighthouse Labs Web Development Bootcamp in Vancouver. This is a fully immersive 8-week data-driven curriculum with plenty of the industry mentors on site. So I personally never trust this type of classes, this type of courses like 3 weeks bootcamp, you're gonna learn how to code in WordPress in 3 weeks, or like, a month fully immersive bootcamp, you can be a full stack developer in just 1 month. I really don't believe these things exist or are good, because to be a developer, to be a good developer, you need a lot of work, you need constant work on a lot of different aspects. You can study one thing and master one thing, but knowing just one thing is not going to help you a lot in the everyday work. And the current type of study, the current type of how you learn these things or how people teach you how to code, most of the time doesn't really apply well in the actual everyday work. So you cannot actually do experience on how your life is going to be inside a company, or what's your role, what your role is going to be after you get hired. So you just learn the basic, you learn the knowledge of coding, but you don't actually have the practical skills of covering the role. And that's where this Lighthouse Lab Web Development Bootcamp comes in handy, because I checked the website and it looks like these guys, they really know what they're talking about, and they have a completely different approach to study. And the curriculum is the other part that is really interesting, because of course it starts pretty much similar to all other courses online, but the interesting part is this section called Preparing for Reality. And you have to build during this week real life projects like Slacker, a Slack-like real-time chat application built using modern JavaScript tool, and Rails, a student-inherit and enhance a pre-existing Rails application. This is kind of neat, because something that in these online courses or classes it's lacking a lot is real life experience, like building something that it's actually useful. You know the logic, you study the logic, you study the basics, but when it comes to build something for real, this is something that people has to use, the users have to use, you're completely lost because you don't know, you don't have the knowledge. And this class, this course looks totally different, looks fully focused on that. And the specs also, it's interesting also the type of class. They have a ratio of 7-to-1 student mentor. So for every 7 students, you have 1 mentor. It kind of looks like a private type of thing, like you have a personal one-on-one, so you can always connect. You're not in a class of, 50 or 100 students, everyone doing the same thing, and the teacher, the mentor, doesn't even remember your name. So this looks really personal. This is fantastic because you learn the practical skills and you learn the mindset and you learn how to actually become a developer, even if you don't have a background. So this guy is a living example of you can be a developer without a degree. You don't have to study computer science for 20 years before becoming a developer. You can do it. You can change your life in a matter of 3 months. You have to put your mind and your soul on it, and you can do it. We have live examples here. So this is really interesting. Really, it's also interesting from an educational point of view, how education is changing, especially in the computer science field, to adapt itself and follow the actual pace, the new pace of learning, and the way that you need to study. Like, it's changing the way you learn in order to achieve something. It's not just studying, it's like practical studying, practical learning. So for whoever asks, yes, you can totally be an amazing developer without having a degree in computer science, and this is fantastic. So thanks web, thanks the internet. Moving on, another news, and it's not really a news, is an article that I read a couple of days ago by Misha Andrews, and it's on uxdesign.cc, a really interesting website. The article is named The Inaccessible Web, How We Got Into This Mess. And I totally agree. So the subtitle says, theoretically, anyone can access the web. In reality, disabled people are excluded. And this struck me a bit because it's something that I'm guilty about it. I'm totally guilty. Like, it's 100% my fault too if this is happening, because we always think about accessibility and user experience and all this kind of stuff from just a regular type of user, a user that doesn't have any disability, like it's not visually impaired, doesn't use a keyboard, slightly different from us, is using, like, we assume that the user that is accessing our website is 100% like us. Same physical capacity, same physical state. So we design a website only for just a percentage of the people of the world and not for everyone. And we don't care. Like, we really don't care. We don't have this discussion during the early stages of design, while we are fully focused on content, we're fully focused on new animations and optimization and responsive and technologies, and this has to be like, wow, amazing. But we never say, hey, what about visually impaired user? Or what about users that they use a screen reader to navigate a website? Or what about users that cannot use a mouse, so use keyboard navigation settings? Our website, are we creating our website accessible for those users as well? And the majority, most of the times, the answer is, oh, I wasn't thinking about it. Like, it's something that it's completely out of our world, and it's really wrong. So this article is quite long, but it's really interesting, and it gives solutions from a technical point of view that are really interesting to implement. So one thing that it's interesting inside this article is, first, this issue comes straight directly from teachers. Most of the time, a teacher doesn't teach accessibility in a proper way. There are examples here about the alt tag, the alternative tag inside an image that by default was conceived and it's supposed to be used to give users, they use screen readers to read, to know what that image is about. Or if the image doesn't load, you're gonna have the message about this is an image about a house and a neighborhood, or this is color red or something like that. There's a textbook or an online class where the alt tag is used, like you can write a custom cute message to have like a custom rollover effect on it and reveal more information about the picture, so be creative. No, that's totally wrong, and this comes from a teacher, comes from a textbook. So it's like from the ground up, everything is wrong about accessibility. And the fault of a developer that it's analyzed also in this article is totally my fault. I can see myself in this article. I can recognize myself in these issues. Basically, from a developer point of view, we are more interested in using the most advanced technologies, using the latest scripts or something like really cool, creating the most amazing animations, or using Ajax to swap content and create a dynamic user experience, all this kind of stuff. But we never actually test those things, or we never even question ourselves, are these things that I'm using fully accessible for everyone? Is this technology too new to be properly used by everyone? So this is something we should really start asking ourselves, and I strongly suggest you to read this article through, because it's really interesting. It's not like judgmental article like everything's wrong, everything's bad, we should just fucking destroy everything and start from scratch again. No, this is really constructive criticism and I love it. So there are also a bunch of Twitter examples about users with disability that are tweeting to really famous apps or really famous accounts asking why their apps are not working. So there's an example here by Lindsay Yazzolino on Twitter at Grammar Glamour that is, she tweeted to Starbucks after Starbucks released the new app on iOS, the refreshed app on iOS, and everyone was losing their mind. Like, the Starbucks app was super cool. You were able to order on the go your coffee and just pick it up ready for you on the countertop, so you have to skip the line. Everything ordering is just like super simple. You tap, you order, it's done. This user commented or tweeted at Starbucks like, "Hi, I'd love to be able to use your new mobile order feature, but it is inaccessible to blind iOS users." Something that I really think no one in the entire Starbucks development and design team thought through. Like, are we stepping back, like taking a moment to ensure that this application will work also on an accessible, like for blind users when they use like screen readers or this kind of stuff on a mobile phone? No, that didn't happen. I'm not criticizing Starbucks. That happens to everyone. It happens to me. Like, I'm guilty about it. And it's this kind of article. It's like eye-opening. It's like really, it struck me true because it's something I actually never considered. Like, I still have it in the back of my mind. Like, this should be readable. So I always write proper alt tag. I create a screen reader option. WordPress is really good for it. It has like built-in screen reader options for screen reader CSS classes. They are good, like good stuff. And sometimes I use it, but nothing more than that. I don't really test my websites on devices with technologies for disabled users. And this is bad. It's really bad. Read this article. You can find the link in the description below. it's amazing. Like, you should totally check it out. It's eye-opening, and I think from today I will start implementing this logic and these things on everything I design or I develop. So it's pretty great. Moving on, a week ago I released a poll on the Twitter account. My Twitter account, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/alecad, or just simply at alecad is my Twitter handler. And my question was, what's your favorite choice to dynamically add browser prefix? So a browser prefix is a specific prefix, something that comes before the CSS attribute declaration, to allow that specific declaration to work on a browser that doesn't support regular declaration. Years ago was like the border radius declaration wasn't support for Mozilla or WebKit, so you were forced to put hyphen WebKit hyphen border radius. Now we have more complicated stuff like Flexbox or box shadows. Now it's kind of like universally used, and we don't need to specify WebKit anymore. But CSS3 animations that still heavily rely on browser's prefix, because they cannot work on every browser by default with the simple CSS declaration. So instead of manually writing, if you have one declaration, you have to rewrite it 5 times for 5 different browsers. If you support just the regular browsers, there are a lot of options for you to automatically add those prefixes without you like manually doing. And the most common options are mixin from Sass, or at least what I think are mixin from Sass or SCSS if you use, or less, or the gulp autoprefixer or the grunt autoprefixer. So basically the options are two: or you do it inside your code, inside your source code with a Sass less inside your code, or you do it with an external compiler, for example like gulp or grunt or something else. If something else will come out, you use this compiler that runs through your code, checks all the declarations, and automatically applies the stuff for you, instead of generating the code already with those prefix. And I had 12 votes. That are not much, really like a low percentage, but 75% said that they prefer to use a Sass mixing. So a mixing declaration inside the code itself. So you manually write a mixing and you define that the mixing has to generate a specific amount of prefix for a specific amount of browsers. Only 25% declare a gulp autoprefixer. And I was of the same idea, I think, until a couple of weeks ago, while I was using Sass. I always use Sass mixings to handle autoprefixer or prefix stuff for browser and update the code to make it work on Internet Explorer and create all this kind of stuff. Then one day I had to work on a project where the gulp file was already generated and was implemented inside it, the gulp autoprefixer. That is this script that runs through your CSS while you're compiling and automatically checks all the code and creates the autoprefix for you based on your settings. And that's when I decided to change my mind. That's when I decided to switch to gulp, because gulp, the autoprefixer of gulp, gave me the ability to specify dynamically which browsers I wanted to support. And it's something that I cannot do it on mixin with a Sass mixin, because with a Sass mixin, I have to write the code and I have to maintain that code. And if I want to update the prefixer for another type of browser, I have to manually update the code. Instead, with gulp, the autoprefixer of gulp, I can just specify, without changing the code, I can specify support Internet Explorer and I insert the code for Internet Explorer. Or I can specify -5% to specify that please automatically apply browser's prefix for all the browsers that have a usage in the modern type of statistics bigger than 5%. And that's amazing because automatically the gulp autoprefixer that is dynamically managed by other developers and updated dynamically with npm, a node package manager repository, I can update and use the code automatically and change the prefix, and change the compiled code on the fly without me rewriting or adapting my Sass mixing and taking care of that code personally. And that's a huge improvement in my daily workflow. Stopping using Sass mixings helped me to spend less time on coding all the stuff that I need to in order to compile a proper CSS file and focusing more on just coding what I want. Of course, let me know in the comment below if you have something against an autoprefixer compiler in the gulp or grunt file. But I think I will stop using the Sass mixins to handle browser prefix and I will switch fully on gulp. So let me know what you think, of course. Hopefully it's gonna be useful for someone. The last topic of today is the main topic of this Nerd Continuity episode. And it came, this topic, a week ago, and I started tweeting it a bunch of things. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw that I was tweeting something about what a designer should do to create a proper file for a developer. And then I wrote on Facebook a huge post about all the things that I commonly see every day about a designer doing web design for a developer. And then I saw this post posted 2 days ago that it's amazing. And this post is a poll inside the webdesignerdepot.com website. And the poll asks if should a designer just design or should a designer also learn a little bit how to code? My answer is the latter. A designer should learn a little bit of the code. And all the reasons are pretty much written in the Facebook page, in my Facebook page, where I wrote those Facebook posts a couple of days ago as well. It's pretty interesting where like thoughts are fluid and everything can be shared. And in my opinion, a designer should learn how to code, not because the designer has to code something, but because while he or she designs, while the designer is designing an application, he should know what works and what not, and also what is really complicated to achieve from a code point of view and what not. So I know that design shouldn't have any constrictions. Like you shouldn't start designing with tons of rules on top of your head, and you shouldn't be constricted by those rules. You should be free to explore everything. But we can connect this to the topic about accessibility. If you create something extreme, amazing, and mind-blowing and innovative, but then it's hard as hell to code and it's not going to be accessible to everyone and it's not going to work properly on 50% of the browsers, and if you do these on iOS or Android, we have to deactivate half of the website because it's not going to work. Is it really worth it, your time designing those things? Or you should think before, if you design something, if it's really doable in code. So overall, a designer should have a little bit of knowledge of basic web standards like HTML and CSS majority. JavaScript will be good, but not really super important. Like most likely a designer should have an average knowledge of front-end technology, front-end development technology. And this would be really beneficial for the designer himself. And I understand all the arguments about against it, because a designer should be fully focused on designing, should be fully focused on graphics, shouldn't clutter his mind with other stuff like with code or constrictions or all these other things that can disrupt the design experience or design process. But if we don't do that, we are going to spend a lot of time trying to sync up between a designer and a developer because we talk completely two different languages. That's also why I think it works, and it should work also for the opposite. A developer should know how to design a little bit, should know how to use a software like Photoshop or Sketch to do web design, should know the principle of designs, because a developer cannot, especially a front-end developer, cannot write code or build a website without knowing how the website should interact and should look, not only by looking at the design. The developer shouldn't be the copycat of a designer, like looking at the design and recreating the code. The developer should also understand those design decisions, because if he doesn't understand those design decisions, he will go against it and he will not care of a couple of pixel changes, or maybe if a section is slightly bigger than was in the design, it's not a big deal. He will not understand that if he doesn't have a knowledge of design. So to conclude, basically this line of thoughts and this episode overall, my opinion, web engineer or a web person, someone that works in the web, with the web, should be an organic entity, shouldn't be just developer or just designer. There should be something more. We should be always available, and we should be always happy to expand our knowledge and to accept the fact that we cannot know everything. We cannot be 100% good in just one thing, or we can be like super expert in all the things. We have to be organic. We have to accept other fields injecting their thoughts in our field. We have to accept other branches contaminating our own branch. That's when a web experience or like a project can really grow from the experience of everyone, because everyone shares pretty much the same knowledge and they can carry together. They can avoid to do different things because they believe in different things or they know different things. So it's kind of a more generic topic, but I know it's complicated. It's like really, it can happen. It's like challenging, but with the current status of technology, when everything, it's really easy to understand, it's really easy to learn, it's really fast type of technology development, it's fast type of process overall. It's a process that is like 10 times faster than what it was 3 years ago now, creating a website with all these technologies and tools. We should really spend a little bit of time to step a little bit, put our foot on another field and improve our overall knowledge and be a better collaborator. If we learn more things that are not in our comfort zone, we can be a better gear in the bigger machine of our company. And that sounds super cheesy, but it's true. If we accept other things, we're gonna be better in the group. We cannot be alone. Even a freelancer cannot do everything by himself. He has to accept other people and he should accept learning from other people. So that's my thought. This is what I think, and I think like that's why I love being a developer and a designer. I'm like kind of the exception because I'm crazy. I want to do everything. I want to be good in backend, front-end, and architecture, and design, and development, and 3D, and video production, and sound editing, and all this kind of stuff. I want to be really good in graphic design, or like painting, or digital painting, or drawing. So I cannot stop learning, because every time I step in another field, my mind explodes. That could be a negative thing, but most of the time it's positive, because it helps my process. It helps to rewire my mind with completely new different informations, and it's amazing. It's something that we shouldn't avoid, and we shouldn't go against it, and we shouldn't stop this process. It's something that I think we're slowly moving towards that direction where we're gonna have hybrid roles in the future. We're not gonna have just the IT or just the backend dev or just the front-end dev or just like the JavaScript architecture developers, something like really targeted or really like compartmentalized. That's something that we're moving out of that type of thinking, and it's something that I really like about web, that you can be a lot of different things, and most of the times you can be a lot of different things all together at once, and that's amazing. So it's pretty much it for today's episode of the Nerd Continuity. I hope you enjoyed it. If you had a good time spending this half-ish hour with me talking about crazy things, if you want, you can give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, on YouTube, or follow me on SoundCloud or iTunes. You can check this podcast everywhere you want. Should be available everywhere, I hope. And that's pretty much it for this lesson. If you have questions, of course, leave me a question. If you have comments, just write it below. I will answer in the next episode of the Nerd Continuity. So thank you so much, guys, and as usual, happy nerding. Bye.